All right. So just I'm just kind of like I've watched stuff about it, but I've never really talked about it. But we're seeing, you have looked at all of the, you like you said, you've had your website since 2006. You've been following all of these Hollywood things for a long time. And one of the things that have been brought up is Hailey Bieber. And it seems as though she has this obsession, not just with Justin Bieber, but any woman that he's with, but in particular, Selena Gomez, and how she's always kind of like lurking in the shadows or copying her. Do you have anything that you know about from like back in those days, or anything about the Baldwins, or people have even said this has been an arranged, actually Justin said this was an arranged marriage, which seemed to take place by people from his church, that he's no longer
Mm.
associated with them, and now he's crashing out all over social media. What do you know about that?
Well, it's not the first time that Justin has crashed out on social media. I think that you go back in time, and the first time I think Justin was probably about 15 when he first met Hailey, and Hailey was 13. And you can see in this first meeting, because the first time that they met is actually captured on video, because Stephen Baldwin, Haley's dad, had brought Hailey to meet Justin, and it felt like he wanted to kind of set the stage for something to happen in the future. So you do have that always in the back of your mind. Now, the thing about the Justin and Hailey relationship up until they got married in 2018 was that Justin would only call her when he wanted a hookup. And don't forget that Hailey, we'll call her Hailey Bieber, but it's Baldwin always sticks in my head. But Hailey was not, I mean, Stephen Baldwin's not a very successful actor, right? He had his moments, but they live basically off the largesse of what Hailey gives them at this point. So, but back then, Hailey didn't have much money. And so if you go back and you look at the gossip and things like that, Hailey was more often than not on the arm of somebody who was older and was rich. Now, you can make the supposition that perhaps she was doing something for money or not. Perhaps she was just getting gifts or whatever. But that's basically how she lived her life, and always trying to find that one guy or whatever so she could either get married or advance her career, come up with something. So Justin would break up with Selena and say, Hailey, come join me. And she'd fly to Australia and spend like 3 or 4 days with him shopping and stuff. And then he would get tired of her and dump her and go back to somebody else. Most of the time, that person was Selena. So over the years, Hailey, of course, saw Selena as the object that she needed to get out of the way in order to get Justin Bieber permanently. So there was always this feud. And Selena at that time was very much a partier. Very much Justin and Selena were using a lot of substances. We've heard from Scooter Braun, who, Justin Bieber's manager or whatever, said that Justin used to use meth. So we can say that. And Justin has crashed off of many tours. There was a time in his life where he was very violent towards people and was just doing some really, really awful things. And in the midst of this, he was dating Selena. And as people who have problems with substance abuse and other issues, there's a lot of volatility. So they would break up a lot. And then Justin would go back with Hailey, or he would go with somebody else. Hailey was not always there for him, because sometimes Hailey would be with somebody else. And Hailey, at the same time when this was going on, she was trying to attach herself to Shawn Mendes, because she thought, okay, well, it's also a Canadian or whatever, but also somebody who was supposedly fairly religious and that kind of thing. And Justin and Selena just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And if you go back to the timeline of about the spring of 2018, there are reports that Selena Gomez tried to unalive herself a couple of times. Was this because of the fact that she wanted to be with Justin? Was it because of the fact that she was having troubles in her own life? Was it because, there's so many different reasons. The only thing that she's admitted to, and that's just in the last couple of years, is that she had unalivable thoughts. But that's the only thing that she's actually said. But at the time in 2018, everybody, the reports were that she had. We know that she was admitted to Cedars-Sinai in 2018. She said it was because of problems with her lupus and stuff like that. Nobody really believes that. But so you have all of this in 2018. It's the summer of 2018, and Justin's bouncing between Selena and Hailey and a couple of other women. And then all of a sudden, like in September of 2018, Justin and Hailey Go get married. It's just out of the blue. Why would you get married like that? So the story goes that Hailey told him that she was pregnant and got urine from a friend of hers who had just had a positive pregnancy test, and then had that, and showed him that she was indeed pregnant. Because they're very religious, they go ahead and they get married, but look, there's no baby later.
What? This is my first time hearing this, because actually I remember there was am I wrong in saying I saw reports that Hailey was supposed to be this virgin when she got married? Have you heard that?
Okay. So again, it's a very religious family, right? And so before I answer the virgin part, the other part is, so right after Hailey and Justin get married, it's mid-September 2018. And this is when the story goes that Selena tried to unalive herself again for the second time. And this is also the time that she was admitted to Cedar Sinai. Was it to try and get Justin to come be by her side and walk away from Hailey? That's how the story goes. So again, so Hailey still has, okay, look, I've married him and you're still trying to do this. You're still trying to get him over there. So, this is the origin of the feud. Now, go back to the virgins. Okay. Justin Bieber had an obsession for a long time with only sleeping with virgins. If you look at the stories of when he hooked up with other people that say had experience, they would often say that he wasn't a very good lover, that he didn't really know what he was doing. So if you find virgins and stuff, and it also goes back to his mother, being very, very religious, and had her own issues with substance abuse and early sex. I mean, she had Justin when she was 19 years old. The family's messed up, but Justin had it in his head, because of all the religious and all the messed up, stuff for his mother and things from like Usher or whatever, that I only want to date virgins. And one of my favorite stories, and it's somebody that was in the music industry who had a child. And at the time, she was probably like 15 years old. But she was the daughter of one of Justin's business managers, and also very, very powerful. So nothing was ever going to happen to this person, and she was allowed to leave. But Justin had what was called key parties. And this was when he was living in Atlanta. And so what he would do was have a bunch of girls come, mostly 15, 16, 17. Now, Justin at this time, he's not that much older than that. He's maybe early 20s. But he would have these parties, and it would generally be like 50 girls and 4 or 5 guys. And, he would take their phones and take their keys and stuff like that. And then things would happen. But most of them were virgins. Now, this particular girl, she's like, oh, I'm out of here. This is not what I want to be a part of. And they didn't even try and keep her. They just said, oh, we know who your dad is. Just go ahead, go, go, go. But so there was, these kind of things that he would set up. And there was always the rumor that he had taken Selena Gomez's virginity. That's debatable. Hailey's, maybe. We don't know, but she certainly didn't lose it on her wedding day or anything like that. It was probably way, way, way back. We don't know if it was Justin. It could have been when, he was 16 or 17 and she was 15. That's entirely possible, but we don't know. We do know that Hailey, like I said, was seen on the arms of a lot of older guys for a lot of years until she finally managed to lock Justin down. But there didn't seem to be, it wasn't as if Justin and Hailey were dating for a long time before they got married. Yes, they'd be seen together on and off and everything like that. But in that spring and summer of 2018, he was seeing at least 3 or 4 people. And then that's why it was such a shock that all of a sudden, they go to the courthouse and they get married.
And what you're saying now is the first time that it makes sense to me. If she was pregnant and said that she was pregnant, I would see Justin wanting to do the right thing, because he was kind of like he started to move into a religious arc and kind of have that influence over him, and probably that pressure on him to do the right thing and to marry her and to settle down, because he's even said that he thought it would solve all his problems, but it just made him worse. It just amplified his problems. But her being pregnant, or allegedly faking a pregnancy,
it was faking.
It's the only thing that makes sense as to why he would hurry up and marry her, and then marry her without a prenup.
Yes.
Like, that to me is like he must have been in such a bad headspace in the manipulation that could have possibly been going on. That is insane. I had never heard that. Was that in publications? Was that something that was talked about, or that was kind of hush hush behind the scenes with people in the know about
The
her faking a pregnancy?
Okay, the faking the pregnancy was just kind of in the, people in the know. But it made sense to everybody, who want, again, if you don't watch these things like on a daily basis, you're not going to pick up on the stuff that, that Justin was dating 3 or 4 people in that spring and summer, that we had in the first supposed maybe attempt by Selena was in the spring of 2018, and then the second was after Justin, got married. And Justin would, of course, if somebody was pregnant or whatever, he would say, "Oh, well, we got to get married," which is why they got married so fast. It that shocked everybody, and that's why they dug into it. Why? And the story goes that yes, she knew somebody who had just tested positive or whatever, and used some of her urine, and that's, the stick that she showed Justin, and then they get married, and then Selena goes, just really crashes out in the fall of 2018. And so every time in the intervening years that, Selena kind of shows any kind of interest or whatever. And here's the thing, is because Justin got married so abruptly. Remember, he wasn't just dating Hailey for like a year. So he and Selena had still been kind of seeing each other. So in the immediate aftermath of him getting married and Selena having that thing, he was still contacting Selena all the time. So probably the first year of the marriage, he was always trying to contact Selena, and Selena was trying to break free because everybody said, you need to do this for your mental health. And so she would change numbers, but they had so many mutual friends that he would get a hold of the number and start talking to her again. And so if you're Hailey and you finally, okay, I've finally got the guy or whatever, I lost the baby or whatever story she came up with, but he is going to go back with Selena. So I have to still keep, fighting and fighting and fighting. And I think it's just in her head. And it's the two of them back and forth. And it's not, everybody says, oh, well, Hailey copied, Selena and did all these kind of things. Well, it goes back to when Justin and Hailey finally did have a baby. Selena starts talking about the fact that she can't have a baby because of the one kidney and her disease and stuff. So it goes back and forth. Selena just has more fans than Hailey. And then Hailey does some things that that people catch her out on because there's, like I said, a lot more Selena fans. But I will say that Hailey will address things directly to the media through her Instagram and stuff, where Selena would not, and Selena kind of keeps it on the sly. I think that Hailey, when she did this video a couple of weeks ago where she's pretending that it's Justin talking to her, and then the people notice in the reflection in her eye that she's holding the phone, that it's not Justin. And it's that kind of behavior. Then everybody goes, okay, well, wait a second. Why are you faking that it's him talking to you and holding the camera when it's you holding the camera above your face?
And I've actually heard that she has, like, allegedly, I'll say, because
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just going off of what people are putting out, but that she's hired like a fake Justin Bieber to go out and pretend like it's him, kind of, with the hoodie and all of that, because he's not spending time with her or he won't be home. And actually, it was just reported recently that Hailey and Kendall Jenner went to a dinner at a restaurant, and Justin Bieber waited till they left. And then he goes in and has dinner by himself and then goes to a movie by himself. As though he doesn't want to be around her. He doesn't want to associate with her. He's posted on his social media a picture of her, and there's a song or that he's referring to her as a Jezebel. And then in another one, it's the song by Beyonce, Irreplaceable, but it doesn't mean she's irreplaceable. If you listen to the lyrics, it's, Beyonce, where she's saying, to the left, you're a fake, you're a fraud, you've been cheating, I don't want you anymore, that you thought you were irreplaceable, but I have another one on the way. And that's the song he's putting out there with Hailey, or just taking very embarrassing photos of her. So do you think, and then I got to circle back to this underage party thing because you just blew my mind. But just quickly, do you think that, their marriage is it that he rushed in to get married based on, false pretenses, possibly, of being pregnant, and then him once being with her, And then there's just all these different things that are happening. And I think obviously his crash out now is just Selena's new album. She's engaged to Benny, all of those things. Do you think that their marriage is like real, or what is going on? It's just like she's just seems to be constantly chasing after him, and he just really doesn't show anything for her, at least not as much as he does putting her down or just not wanting to be around her, even running away from her, and she's falling in the street.
Yeah, and don't forget that Benny Blanco and Justin Bieber used to be best friends. So that's, the other kind of, puzzle piece. So did Selena pick Benny Blanco to, to get back at Justin or whatever? Here's the thing. So they get married by false pretenses, let's say. Let's say she said I'm pregnant. Let's say she was pregnant, whatever. She obviously didn't end up having the baby. We have Selena going through a severe crash out in 2018. We have Justin, calling Selena all the time for the first year. Then we have all these instances where we're in 2019ish, and Justin's having trouble. Then we have lockdown, right? So then she has to stay with Justin, and they're always together, and Justin's doing a lot of drugs and things like that, and she's having to deal with this, and she's having to take care of him. He tries and then goes on tour. He has to cancel the tour halfway through because he's just having a complete breakdown. And it's just a constant cycle with Justin. And, honestly, she defends the heck out of him, and she is always supportive of him, and is always trying, it feels like, to keep everything together. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
I finally did this. I believe in my, it's love forever, death do us part. I don't believe in divorce, whatever, stick it out, health, whatever. And so she does, and she does, and she does. And then he gets better for a while. But then he crashes again. And how many times do you do that? How many cycles can you do? And now you have a baby. You have a literal baby. And I hope that Justin's not the one that's taking care of the baby. And then I assume that it's Hailey and some nannies or whatever that are taking care of it. Plus, you also have the pressure. Justin has been basically used by various pastors at churches for money, whether it's Hillsong or some of the other ones. And then, Hailey has said some things now about, another pastor that she hates, and always talking about, using, just getting that check and everything. But at the same time, you have her dad, who is basically trashing Justin on a regular kind of basis. And so this family dynamic seems to be horrible, but it feels like Hailey's trying to stick it out, and maybe Justin's going to just finally say, I'm done. But then again, you go back to there's no prenup. So Hailey's going to be, well, she's already rich. And that's the other thing. She took the being with Justin and did something, right? She has this makeup line. But of course, Selena has a makeup line too. But they're both very popular makeup lines. But she has, taken that and taken what advantages that she was given and done something with them. Unlike, say, going back to Blake, who was unable to get that, because Blake, for how, it's not always who you're married to. You also have to be popular. You can have 1 million followers on YouTube, but maybe you only get 5,000 videos or whatever, or you get a ton of videos, but people won't buy your products because they're just listening to you for content. You're not actually influencing anybody to do anything. And Blake can't
Mhm.
influence anybody to do anything because nobody likes her. Hailey can, yes. Selena can, yes. So it just depends.
Yeah, and it's just thinking about with Blake, she has 44 million Instagram followers. We people have actually recorded like bots like going in and following her, like the same name with just like a number or a dot or whatever. 44 million people are follow Blake Lively. There are celebrities that are way bigger that don't have those numbers, which I think is very inflated. And it shows you that she cannot sell anything because like her alcohol has failed, her hair care line has failed. At least that's what it appears like on the
Yes.
outside. And then if you look at what it ends with us, if she was so popular, she wouldn't have needed to do all the things that she did in order to take over this movie. And really, people didn't come see it because of Blake Lively. In fact, people were
No.
turned off by her. It was because they were fans of the book. Like this
Yes.
was a book that had a huge fandom going back to 2021 from TikTok. And so yeah, I understand it. And I do, part of me, I don't want to pile on to Hailey. I don't know the situation. I was not involved in there. So I don't whatever things she had to do to tie this up. Maybe she's tired of the drama. She really wanted to marry Justin, but and I do think he is a lot to deal with. And one thing she does is that she does keep a very good public face. And maybe if she's hiring somebody to look like him, it's to help him, help his image, help, her image as well, because they are a married couple. But he just seems like an app. I mean, I just cannot imagine being married to him. He just seems extremely difficult and extremely tough to deal with. But I will say with Selena, with Benny Blanco being best friends with Justin Bieber, he knows both sides of their relationship. He knows what Justin's done and what she did and what it was. And he still chose to be with her. So I think that says a lot about her character as well. But I know that part of his crash out recently, it has to be the two of them together. I just think, even though he's married, he's moved on, he has a baby, it's been years. She grieved for a lot of years about that. And now they're in this relationship. And I just know this has to stab him in the heart, because if you see him over the next, I would say the last week, it's just post after post after post, childhood photos, things is going on live stream. And he looks like he is severely using, like his face is very gaunt. And you said that he was on meth before, that he had used meth. And so now, most likely, I don't know. Do you think there's any attachment to that between the Selena thing, or is just he just crashes out like this regardless? It's just something triggers him. And we do know the Diddy trial is coming up too.
We do.
I don't know if that could be associated with it. But is there usually, this is how he crashes out? Is it usually this bad, you would say, especially in these later years? I know in his earlier years, yes, but like now, this just seems like a really extreme.
Yeah, it does. This is by far one of the worst, I would say. And think about this. He's showing you publicly. He's not even trying to hide it. So imagine what he's doing that's not being posted to Instagram, right? What you're seeing is bad enough. So what's happening? And I imagine that Hailey every day is like, oh my gosh, married to him. There's times where, they'll go to a concert or something and you'll see Justin and he's asleep at the concert or whatever. And I don't know how you can actually sleep at a concert unless you're just hammered or on some kind of medication or whatever. But he'll be there. But yeah, I think that this crash out, I like your reasoning with the Benny Blanco, Selena Gomez. I also like your reasoning in relation to, say, Sean Combs and all of these kind of things. And, there's an old video that I posted, and it's Sean Combs hugging Justin Bieber, and Justin's probably like 18 or something. I don't remember how old. And you can see that Sean Combs is patting him down looking for a wire.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I remember it was like outside of a car or something
exactly.
like that. Mm-hmm.
And it's so weird that he's patting him down for a wire. So, yeah, I think that Justin has a lot of stories. And maybe with the Sean Combs thing, he is reliving some of that. But you have to, you guys, you have to realize that Justin's mom essentially sold him to Usher. And that's how I think wrote about it at the time, was that, because Justin Timberlake, for whatever, he didn't have the money at the time. But, Justin Bieber had been on YouTube and there was a lot of clamoring for him. And Justin Timberlake said, look, I can't give you any money or whatever. But, I've got this great team and we'll get a great career. And Justin's mom's like, nope, we need some money. And so she basically sold him to Usher, went back to Canada and let Justin just kind of fend for himself, at the age of 15.
Oh, can you imagine? I think he would have been in much better hands with Justin Timberlake, especially not having those ties to Diddy. That is something I want to do a deep dive in and explore, because this is atrocious and I would say grotesque, but it just, she was a teen mom, and just hearing some of the drug use and abuse and things that are going on in his family, it makes sense. Now, this is the last thing I want to ask you about. Going back to Justin Bieber in his early 20s, having parties with underage girls because they're virgins, and you're saying 30, 40 girls and like 5 guys. Like, was this reported on? Did this happen multiple times? Is this a thing that all of Hollywood or the music industry knows about him? Because we think back, we just talked about him being preyed upon by, industry vultures. Look, thinking about Usher and Diddy and all of that. And I believe Usher also, his mother did the same thing with him, with Diddy. And he went to flavor camp and all of the things that could have happened to him. but now I'm just thinking about that he repeat that cycle of abuse. Please just like give me more
Yeah.
information about this, because this is my first time ever hearing about it.
Okay. So, there wasn't a lot of reporting on it at the time, but yes, there were, some girls that have talked about it since. And I will give you another example, and it's a totally different person. It's Travis Scott. And Travis Scott had these parties where he would have women come over, and it would again only be like 5 or 6 guys, and have 40 or 50 women. And basically, as an added precaution for himself, when the women got there, they would have to change clothes into basically a wife beater shirt and just some panties, so that way he knew that they didn't have any wires or cameras or anything like that. You had to deposit the camera in the bag. And so it feels like this is just kind of a music industry thing. Now, the Travis Scott one came from somebody who had multiple sources, but the story got killed because at the time Travis Scott was with Kylie Jenner, and so the Kardashians put their the head on the neck and said, no, that story is not going to see the light of day. But the reporter, and this is often the case where reporters, they work hard on a story and it gets killed by somebody, so then they give it to me or whatever kind of gossip blogger friend that they have, because they worked so hard on the reporting. But they were more upset by the fact, because it was a tiny story, wasn't going to go very far, but they had multiple sources, but they were just upset the fact that the Kardashians had killed the story, because they didn't want to make Travis Scott look bad at the time, because he was with Kylie.
Wow. Like that makes sense. Now, was Travis, was he dealing with women, like adult women, versus
Yes, he was dealing
dealing
with adult women. Yes. Yeah.
But Justin, it was with underage women, is what
It
you're
was.
saying.
Yes.
Oh, well, underage girls is what you're
Underage
saying.
girls. Yeah. And the thing is that look, I don't know if this girl who was there, like I said, the daughter of an industry executive, I don't know if she was checking IDs or whatever. She was underage. Okay. So, and there
Mhm.
were contemporaries of her who, were there. So they were of a similar age. Could there have been, ones that are over 18? Sure. I'm just speaking to her and the ones that she knew.
Oh, you have just opened another can of worms like you did on the last one. I don't want to keep you too long, and I hope that we can do this again. I know you guys love when I speak to him and he blows your mind. I am hoping that eventually we could do like a live stream where you guys can actually, or either you guys send in questions before to get clarification. So anything that you want to ask or just find out. But guys, crazy days and nights. Okay. That is who I'm speaking to. Some of you guys were confused. I put his information everywhere. I'm going to make sure I put it on the screen throughout this, but his links will be below to his YouTube channel. He also has, actually, you want to tell them everywhere that they can find you?
Yeah. So I'm at NT Lawyer on all social media, and then patreon.com/NT Lawyer, where I've got like 2,500 episodes. And Crazy Days and Nights, I think it's called podcast on YouTube. I forget what it's called. So
Now, guys, I will link all of that below so you guys can find him. I'm telling you, like, this just scratched the surface of like what he knows. If you go over to his website and you go over to his channel here on YouTube, you are going to hear so much information, not just about Justin Bieber or Blake Lively and all of this, but I mean everyone in the industry, things that you didn't even know existed, that you didn't even know you needed to know, but you're going to find out. It goes very deep, but he is essentially the OG of all of this tea. So I appreciate you so much coming on. It was a pleasure as always. And yeah, this was another mind-blowing interview.
thanks for
So
having me. I appreciate it.
did you have anything else that you wanted to add or anything else?
No, I'm great.
Okay. All right, guys, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. And guys, make sure you go to the description box. I'm gonna try to pin it as well as the top comment, the links to get to him, especially his YouTube here on YouTube. So you can, and I'll probably put his YouTube in the title so you can go directly there and just check out all the videos that he has. Again, guys, it's going to blow your mind. Absolutely need to subscribe to him. I don't know why he doesn't have 1 million subscribers at this point, because he is a wealth of knowledge far beyond me or anybody else that you guys are listening to right now for tea. So with that one, check out the links and I will see you next time.